thank you guys for having me at your Canada Day show. Sure has been fun.
Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jay, and today I have a special guest for you. I'm on break with
Lars Callieou.
Lars. First off, I just want to congratulate you. You're crushing it out there. How are things going? I know you're a busy guy, so I really appreciate the time that you've allotted for this interview.
Well, let's do. Yeah, thank you. Now let's do this. I don't know if a lot of your fans or listeners know, but Jay Lee is one of the most talented individuals I've ever met, and I'm not blowing smoke. I mean, when it comes to music or mixing or any of your projects that you've worked on, or as one of the dealers that we've worked with, whew, those hands are smooth, son. They're like, so I've been a fan of yours for a long time. I still have one of your CDs from back in the day, man. I really do.
Oh, wow. Well, hey, thanks. Thanks for the shout out. I totally appreciate that. But you are arguably the most famous person that's worked in the casino industry right now. So that's great. I don't know anybody more famous than you. So
well, yeah, I mean that's using the term very loosely. So I mean I always loved stand-up comedy. I always loved stand-up comedy from the time I was 6 years old. And I think I didn't want to, so we worked in the mall together. Mm-hmm. And there was a comedy club in the mall. There still is, West Edmonton Mall. And I would go down on Tuesdays. We would finish work at 7 o'clock. And at 8 o'clock, Matt Linzer would get me free tickets to the amateur nights every Tuesday. So from probably 97 or 98 to 2001, I went down and watched the amateur night at Yuck Yucks in West Edmonton Mall for like 3 years. I was there. I lived in it. But Matt Linzer was wonderfully funny. Like, just, I mean, one of the most naturally funny people we've ever met. And I didn't want to start doing stand-up because I felt like I would be copying him. I didn't want to look like, you know, I was imitating him, but I wanted to do it. And so I came back from the cruise ships 2002, and I started doing stand-up comedy in 2003. So Matt had retired the year before. And so I came back from the cruise ships, you know, had saved a bit of money, started doing stand-up May of 2003, and 17 years later, I mean, it's taken me to, you know, 25 countries, and I've worked with some pretty cool people. And I've actually had an opportunity to work with most of the people who are still doing comedy, who started back in Edmonton, like if there's any of them remaining. So there's one very funny comedian named Dana Alexander. So she lives in the UK now, and she and I have done shows in the UK, in Vietnam, in Thailand. So we've run into each other all over the world, but I used to watch her 20 plus years ago when she was doing amateur nights in Edmonton.
I'm a big fan of yours. I've watched your journey over the years, and I've seen you on TV, and I've seen you do so much. I've seen you live. So I mean, like, you deserve everything that you're getting right now, and I'm so happy for you. I'm so glad that things are well, I'm not glad about the situation, but I'm just so glad that you found something out of it, and you know, you still managed to make people laugh even at a time like this. It's amazing.
Well, you know, when it was very competitive, the Palace Casino was very competitive, and this is going to sound a bit arrogant, but I would put our top 8 craps dealers who, you know, in 99, I would put the top 8 dealers we had up against almost anybody in Canada. And, you know, there's some dealers from the UK that were just untouchable, but as a Canadian crew, I think we were the best. And, you know, me, you, Quan, and I won't put John Holland in the dealing crew because he was, I mean, he's not even, I mean, that guy's otherworldly. And so, but that crew back then were like all of us who had started doing that, and Marvin, Sarah, Stephanie, although I think she went to ships shortly after that. And so those crews were amazing because of John Holland. They really were. And we were super, super competitive. So we would show up early. We would have like speed races. We would work on all kinds of presses and moves. and everybody wanted to be as good or better than the other people you were on the table with. And I mean, you know, though I think that there was probably, I don't think there was 15 of us who started when we were allowed to take the training for the first time. And man, we busted our asses to be good at that game. And so starting in stand-up comedy was very similar to that. If you went to every open mic, if you went to every show, if everywhere where there was a microphone. I remember there was a Roy Jones Jr. fight that I watched probably 2003, 2004. And we were at Billy Bud's or Bud's, whatever it is, on like Argyle Road. And they were doing karaoke. The fight was a one-rounder. And so everybody was like, oh, it was kind of anticlimactic. It just was over. And I went up to the guy setting up karaoke and said, hey, could I do a comedy set? And so here's this rowdy boxing crowd on a Saturday night after a big fight. And I'm like, hey, can I just go up and do some comedy while you're setting up? And the guy just handed me the microphone. And so every opportunity to be on stage, I remember one of my favorite, there wasn't a lot of comedy open mics in Edmonton in 2003, 2004. So what I would do was I would go to karaoke nights. And I would put my name in the rotation and I would do 3 minutes of comedy, same length as the song. And I would wait my turn. But I mean, I have audio of getting off the stage at karaoke nights because they were mad I wasn't singing. They were like, they thought I was crashing their party. And eventually they became pretty good friends of mine. And some of them still are to this day. And so I would do every karaoke night and I would go and wait my turn, every music open mic. I had this one lady, you might have to bleep this, but I remember I was doing a place called La Pearl Pub on the West End, doing 3 minutes of comedy at a karaoke night. And I just wanted to be good at comedy. And this old lady in a walker comes like walking by as I'm doing my set. And she just turns to me and goes, sing a fucking song. Like just, they're very territorial, you know, musicians and karaoke people. They feel like you're kind of making fun of what they're doing. And I wasn't. I was actually trying to become good at comedy. And then, you know, I turned around 3 or 4 years later and I was a headlining act. And then probably, you know, 5 years into it, 6 years into it, I got Just for Laughs and a comedy special on TV, and then started working with a bunch of famous people. And people want to work with us because they like us. You know, it's nice that we're good at our job. Anybody can do a job, but when you're hanging backstage with Joan Rivers' tour manager and you get on with him, so you become friends with Graham and Jocelyn, and then when they come back to Canada, they want to work with you because you're on time, you wear a suit, you do what you're told, you know, stay away from the, you know, whatever they tell you, don't do this topic. Joan never did that, but Roseanne Barr gave you a big long list of stuff that you weren't supposed to do. But so if you just did your job and were funny, then when they came back through, you know, Bob Saget had come back to Canada or to Edmonton, and he'd go, yeah, just get Lars again. It's a no-brainer. And so it was really, really interesting to be on a first name basis with a lot of these people, like walking down a hallway, you know, at the Jubilee Auditorium in Calgary and passing Joan. And she's like, hey, Lars. And I'm like, hey, Joan. And we're like, this is surreal. I never in a million years would have dreamed that I'd be on a first name basis with some of the biggest stars and, you know, but you want to make your own way as well. So, you know, as we go around and tour the clubs, you know, all the clubs in Asia, the English speaking clubs. So every year there's this amazing comedy club in Kuala Lumpur called the Crack House. So you go to Kuala Lumpur, they take great care of you, put you up in a nice hotel. And then you go to Singapore and do Comedy Masala there, and they take great care of you. And then you go to Bangkok and Phuket and Ho Chi Minh. And actually, if people are ever in Asia, hopefully when things open back up, there's a great New York Times article about English comedy in Vietnam. So if you just go New York Times comedy in Vietnam, it'll come up. And so those are all my friends and people that I've known for, you know, 5 or 6 years. And when they were first starting out booking shows, you know, I was helping them like, hey, here's, you know, try and find a hotel sponsor and try and do this. And, you know, you can work out a deal with the bars that you're doing shows in or rent theater. And so it was, it's fun. It's fun to watch the growth of scenes like that. And then it's fun to just be a part of it. I mean, you know, you head over to Vietnam and you get to do 3 or 4 shows and drink a bunch of cheap beer with some friends. And so it's been a trip, man. I mean, I never dreamed you could be a comedian. So.
Oh, cool. Congratulations on that. Congratulations on your success, man. It's so cool. I'm so happy to know you and just so happy to kind of just follow you on your journey. So I just can't wait to see what's next. I just can't wait to see you know, you're so smart in the fact that, you know, you're very innovative. A lot of people, like, it's hard for people to kind of like think about, well, how can I progress? How can I get to this next level? But, you know, not just in like comedy, but like in the casino as well. Like I saw you develop as well, and it was nice to have like that front row seat for that as well. So
Yeah, it's been, and you know, I'll tell a story about working on the cruise ship. So I joined a cruise ship July 23rd, 2001. I was working on the Horizon, celebrity cruise ship Horizon. So it was sailing from New York to Bermuda. And sailing from New York to Bermuda, July of 2001, it was a 7-day cruise. And I, you know, all those people are still our friends. They're still my friends. They're great people. So we were docked in Bermuda with 2,000 New Yorkers on our ship when the planes hit the World Trade Center. So we had sailed from New York 2 days earlier. And Mike Stark, one of our friends, I mailed out like hundreds of postcards. So Mike Stark has a postcard that I mailed him of the World Trade Center, postmarked September 11th, 2001.
wow.
Yeah, he posts that. So it was, I mean, that was wild. And then this is the story that tells you how close, I mean, the casino, they're just a tight group, and you know, there's a lot of love. Like any job, you know, you become family. And so my dad passed away, and I got a phone call while we were at sea between New York and Bermuda. So I just got to a table. I'm just about to start dealing, and a dealer comes up and taps me on the shoulder. And I was like, oh no, my break just ended. So we get 15-minute breaks, if you guys are wondering. That's and I was like, oh no, my break just ended. And they said, there's a call for you at the cash cage. And I was like, we're at sea on a cruise ship. There's a call for me at the cash cage. And so I walk over to the cash cage, and it was my mom. And you know, my dad played at the Palace Casino, so a lot of the people knew my dad. And my mom told me, she's like, your dad passed away. And so I went down, and we were, you know, I was packing because I've got to get home. And that happened at about 11 o'clock at night. And by the time the casino closed at 2:30 a.m., the casino people had taken up a collection. They had bought my flight home. They had already paid for it, my flight home from Bermuda to Edmonton, and had given me 500 US that they had all collected. And so by the time they all came down to console me and have some drinks with me, they had already like put together the flight and the money. And so I remember every single one of those people. Like they're just wonderful. And so when I went back on the casino as a comedian, I asked if I could do comedy shows for the staff and the crew, and take the money and set it all, any money that people donate, set it aside. If somebody lost a parent, that they would be able to dip into this fund so that they could get a flight home and have some money, you know, if they had to take some time off because of that. So I love the casino people.
Wow, that's kudos to our group. Honestly, I love no, you're right, I love all those people there for sure. I miss them. And I think there was two reasons why I did this channel, Lars, and one was a present time dealer was telling me why I didn't do this before, and the other one was actually on a Friday. I was sitting, and I'm working at the casino, and I'm on break, and there's Lars reshares a post, and it's about craps, and I mean, everyone was like commenting, haha, hilarious, all their stories. And I look, and I'm just like, hold on a second, I'm the only one that's actually working, and I'm on craps that shift.
No way.
I'm working. I'm the only one left working after all this time. Granted, I did leave and come back, but I think what I kind of had that realization that, oh my God, like all the people that I got to work with, like when I worked with you, it was awesome. Not just craps, by the way, because we were partners on roulette, and you showed me all this
High-go tiles.
High-go tiles is so fun. And you know, that's kind of what, you know, you're part of the reason why I started like learning all these other games, because like I'd see how you were like having fun on roulette, and you were like trying to like spin two. I think it was two. But I was just like, I love two. I love this guy. Oh man, I can't wait. Like I want to chip. I want to chip because I want to like see these stories. You and Todd, and there's a whole bunch of guys that were there at the time. I was like, oh man, And that kind of compelled me to like learn these other games, because you know, you deal blackjack and it's cool, but you're by yourself. You're at a dead table, you're by yourself. You're talking with, you know, the soup, and that's great. But when we're on craps together, it's like, it's not just about the game, but we were always like talking about everything else. And you know, and roulette was right beside there too. So it wasn't just us. We could watch everything that was going on in the table there, and then the other table too. So honestly, Lars, like it was just, you know, like I miss working with you, and that's why I love doing this channel, because I can share your story, because like you've done so much over like the last 20 years. It's incredible. It's incredible. So
Yeah, and for non-casino people, if they're watching this, so when you deal 7 hours of roulette a day, so before craps came in, for 3 years, I dealt roulette 6 days a week, 7 hours a day. And so you're stacking half the time and you're dealing the other half the time. So the person you're working with, you work with that person for the entire 7 hours. So at that time, I'd be working a lot with Will Workman. So Will and I, and also Todd, and so Todd Craner. So we would bet beers on how we could section. So if you kept the wheel going at a continuous pace and you were consistent with your spin, you would, I mean, it's perhaps, maybe we were, maybe it was fantastical to think we could do that, but we would have bets. We would bet drinks. So over the 7 hour shift, who could hit a number more times? And so we would do that. And so if one of our favorite players came up, we would make their number the number that we would want to see if we could hit. And we would, I mean, if statistically, and I love statistics, I believe we hit that number with a lot more frequency than one would think. And I mean, it's just consistency. You're doing this job 7 hours a day, 40 hours a week for 3 years. You get pretty good at that stuff, and you're competitive. You're working with these guys who are great. And so there was some massive, some of the dealers, I mean, they were good. They were really good at what they did. And so, yeah, we would always be screwing around.
for the dealers that don't know you, and the people that never got the opportunity to work with you, could you kind of tell everyone how you broke into the casino industry?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fun question. My memory of it is a little different than Kim Van Beek. So her married name now is Kim Clark. But Kim Van Beek, her mother was a games manager, supervisor, and her sister Karen also worked in the casino with us. So I was in university. I went to U of A from 1994 to 2000, and Kim tells me that she was working in the casino and told me about it at one of the parties that we had met at university. I don't remember that, but I don't know how else I would have got into it. So her story holds water, although I have no recollection of that moment. I think she's right. And so she said, we were talking about it. She made the job sound fun. And then she talked me into taking the blackjack training in 1996 for Klondike Days. So I took it with Mahalia, and there was a whole other group that took the 1996 blackjack training. So there used to be this golden handshake in Edmonton where all of the casinos would shut down for the 10 days of Klondike Days, which is our city's fair. So they would shut down, and all of the dealers from all of the casinos would come together and work at the fair casino, which was huge. And so that's where you got your training, was you'd learn this and become a dealer. They had expanded a lot of the casinos in 1997. So Palace Casino had moved across the mall, expanded to a lot bigger space, and a lot of the other casinos were expanding. And so I got a job. Argyle had expanded. I got a job immediately. As soon as I applied in 1997, I got the job. And so I think it was February of 97 when I became a dealer. And it was Kim Van Beek who got me into it. And I have a silly, when I was taking the blackjack training, I saw people learning roulette. And I was mesmerized by it. I was watching it, and I learned the numbers and how a lot of the odds worked. And I was captivated. And so people who failed the blackjack training, if you failed blackjack training, you got to work the money wheel. So they would take you aside and go, look, we're going to give you a license, but you're only going to be licensed to spin the spin the big money wheel. And so I see these people who failed, like 3 or 4 people get pulled aside, and they're like, you get to work the wheel. And I thought the wheel was roulette. So I went to these, I'm like, I finished the top of my class. I'm like, how I should get to work the wheel. And they're like, we don't, like, you can deal blackjack. And I'm like, no way. I'm like, that's not fair. Like, these dummies failed. and I want to work the wheel. And they're like, yeah, I mean, we can schedule you for a shift on the wheel if you want. And then me standing there, I'm like, this isn't what I signed up for. So yeah, it was, and I mean, I loved it. You know, so many of those people, here we are, you know, 20 years later, and they're still such close friends. They're such good people. So.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Throughout your journey, you ended up actually going on the. You did mention that you did go on the ships. How long did you spend on there? I know we went on the same time. I went around the same time. I was on the ships for 9/11 as well. But how long did you end up staying?
I think we took our table test together in Vancouver.
Yeah, okay. So that's something that I don't want to talk about right now because I'm going to save that for another segment. There's a whole story about that. But yeah, I'm glad that you remember that. That's good.
Yeah. So when I was doing my roulette table test for like on a cruise ship in Vancouver, I fired the roulette ball and it skipped out and hit a slot machine at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Like one of my spins, like I hammered that slot machine. People are like bang, and they're like, whoa, like you don't have to go it. And so, but we passed the table test, and I you know really attribute that to John Holland getting us ready for the craps part of that. But I was on cruise ships for one contract in 2001. And so 6-month contract. Dad passed away halfway through, so I was home for a month. Then came home, trained craps at Jackpot Casino in Red Deer. So I took a 3-month vacation, went down there, offered them craps training, showed them the awards like blah, blah, employee of the month, employee of the quarter, all the stuff that I'd won on the cruise ships, got hired to do that, trained craps down there. And then it was fun. I really enjoyed that. And then went back for a little over half a contract. And I don't know if I was homesick or if I was, you know, maybe still, you know, dealing with my dad passing or what it was. But I decided about halfway through the contract, I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And I came back, had never worked at any of the, you know, the ABS casinos and back in the day. And so I went to Argyle for like not even 6 weeks. And I remember the day, it was December of 2002. And I was like, nah. And I just went up and I said, yeah, I'm not going to do this anymore. And he said, what are you going to do? And I said, not this. And so I quit. And then January, I got a job at Epcor. I started comedy in May, and then, you know, worked at a power company for 5.5 years while I was starting in stand-up. And then comedy just got so busy that I had to quit my day job. I didn't even want to. I enjoyed my day job and quit my day job. And it's been 12 years now that I've just been a full-time stand-up comedian.
That's awesome. What do you miss the most about the casino industry?
Oh, good question. You know what I miss? Craps. And if I'm in Vegas or if I'm in California and if I'm watching a bad craps dealer, there is nothing that makes me want to get back into it more than watching a bad dealer. I honestly just want to push him out of the way and be like, I got this, get out of the way. And so I was doing comedy at a fundraiser in Red Deer, and there was a craps tub there because they were doing a funny money casino after. And I walk over and I'm playing with the chips on this funny money casino craps table. And the people who run the funny money casino came over and like, hey, you can't touch that. And then they look and it's me, and I trained them 10 years earlier. And they were like, what? And they're like, you can touch anything you want. And so that night, after I finished my comedy set, I dealt craps for 5 or 6 hours. Never even took a break. Just was on that table, and you couldn't have pulled me off of it. So yeah, bad dealers make me want to get back there more than anything. So otherwise, you know, I love it, and I've never been much of a punter. Like I never gambled very big, but when I go back, I just bet for the crew over and over again and just have fun with that. But it's that's what makes me want to go back. That's what I miss, is when somebody's really bad at it and I'm like, you're terrible at this.
Oh, well, hey, funny that you mentioned that. I have a surprise for you if I know what I'm doing.
Hey Lars, how's it going? one of my favorite dice dealers of all time. Okay, here's a question for you. It's a busy game, all kinds of action. It's going to last all night, 7-hour shift. You need to pick 3 other dealers, 2 of the boxmen. There's a scenario. So it's a 2-part question. Who do you pick and why do you pick them?
Nice.
Okay, buddy. Hope to see you soon.
3 dealers and 2 boxmen? Okay, you, for sure. Okay. John Holland sitting box. Sean Joyce. So Sean Joyce was the funniest person to work with ever. I could watch Quan. His hands were so smooth. So you, Quan, me, Sean Joyce, although Hillary Farian was so fun to deal with. She was super, super fun. So you, me, Sean Joyce, Quan, John sitting box, and I'll pick, who's the other boxman? I gotta go with Sean. And here's why. He was ruthless to us. He was so rough on us. He was like a drill sergeant when we were learning that game, but we were good because of it. Like he was a stickler for the rules. You didn't hawk the dice. You used the right hand on the stick. You don't. So John was a soft sell, and he made you want to be better because he was the Wayne Gretzky of craps. You watched what he did, and you saw how he handled everything, and he was so creative that you wanted to be that. One of my favorite moves in craps, when I have a smart-ass player. So if a player's playing a come bet, let's just use $5 as an example. He's got a $5 come bet and a $5 pass line bet with double odds. So if the player thinks he knows the game better than you, and he's like, oh, do this and do this, you think you know the game better than I do? There's no way. So what you do is when there's a 7 out, you scoop up all of his bets and his come bet, but you leave his odds. And so the player goes, whoa, 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 you took my come bet. And I'm like, you want to see a magic trick? And the guy would go, okay. And then I would just look down at his odds and he would go, oh. And then they never questioned you again. So I would only do it when the player thought he knew the game better than I did. And as soon as you scooped up that comeback, whoa, 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 you took my comeback. No, I didn't. Leave me alone. I know how to deal this game. I know how to deal this game this much better than Sterling Anderson.
Oh my God. I don't know how much of this I could use. There's a lot of last names. I don't know if people want I don't know if they want to be identified in these, but it's pretty funny. That guy named Sterling. Yeah, him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I got to work. Well, obviously I trained him. That was before we went on the ship, so I didn't really get to work with him that much. I just
He's a good dealer. He's a hell of a dealer.
Oh,
but I would
Yeah. Okay, Lars. Thanks for taking the time to join the channel, and I hope to have you on the channel again, as a guest, and maybe an extended break. So.
Yeah, it would be. I'd be honored. It's always nice to chat with you. I'm a big fan.
Me too. Okay, Lars. Have a great day.
Talk to you soon.
See ya.
Yeah, you too. Oh, I'd like to go on record. I want to go on record and say Sterling Anderson was a very good craps dealer. He couldn't hold a candle to us. The kid talks a big game, but he wasn't. We're a better dealer than that guy is. I just wanted that here.
Wow. Oh, okay. Shots fired. I trained that guy. So
yeah. Well, Yoda didn't teach Luke everything.
Oh no.
He's a hell of a dealer. I'm just saying.
Oh.
Kid can't shine my shoes.
Ooh. Oh, buddy.
It sure was a pleasure performing for you guys today. Thanks a lot. I guess we'll see you guys maybe later or something. Thanks for having me. Take care. See you.